Okay, today we're going to start talking about slope, and we're going to specifically look at it today um, in equations and graphs. And let's go ahead and define slope. I have the definition here for you. Slope is a ratio of the change in the y values compared to the change in the x values. A lot of times we look at it, it's referring to the steepness of a line. Some other ways you might see me write it or refer to it, change in science, the symbol for change is a triangle. So a lot of times you'll see me draw a triangle, the change in y over the change in x. We already learned that slope is represented with a variable m. Sometimes also you'll see, and we're going to use this a lot today, is slope is referred to the rise over the run. Now we have a really silly little thing because we need to understand a lot about what slope is. So we have this guy called Slope Dude, and if you want to put some hair on it, it could be the Slope Dudette and it could be Mrs. Adams. And I'll tell you a funny story about slope. So we have different kinds of slopes. Here is a linear line. Here's our graph. And if you've ever been skiing, because, you know, in skiing there's different steepnesses of slopes. You've got your bunny hills and your blue hills and your black diamonds that get harder and steeper. And so we need to make sure we know the difference. So if you're skiing, and here's silly Miss Adams skiing up, you know, with, I guess you have to wear a helmet now, or my toboggan. If you're trying to ski up a hill, that's really hard. And you're going to be working hard. You're going to kind of be out of breath. You're going to be puffing up the hill. When we have a slope that angles this way, we consider that a positive slope. And that's really important. We need to start recognizing positive slopes, negative slopes. Well, if you make it up the hill without, you know, completely crashing or out of breath, then you're ready to go down the hill, right? Well, when you go down the hill, that's nice and easy, right? You're going to be going pretty fast when you go down the hill if you're not too careful. So that, the N, the nice and easy, is a negative slope. Okay, so one time, the first time Miss Adams went skiing, she got to the bottom of like a bunny hill, and I didn't know how to stop. Even though I had taken lessons, I didn't know how to stop. So I was like, whoosh, zooming, almost running into the ski lodge. I was zooming down the hill, or when it flattened out. And so my slope here is 0. And this can be really tricky. When the slope is 0, I mean, the good thing is I was still on my feet. So I'm still kind of happy, and it is kind of fun to go fast. But something we'll talk about is you want your 0 up here in your numerator. Okay, so then also when I was skiing, you know, I was such a great skier. I am athletic, but I was a bad skier, or I am a bad skier. Sometimes I was falling off the cliff. And so when you're falling off the cliff, like here's me going, ah, falling off the cliff, I'm saying, oh no, I'm falling off the cliff. So a line that looks like this is going to be no slope. So fill in your picture. We're going to talk more about this, but hopefully that will help you a little bit to think about the different kinds of slope. Notice this time my 0 is in the denominator. Okay, so looking at back to our notes, we're going to first find the slope from the graph. So the first thing you want to do is you want to locate 2 points with exact coordinates. Now I kind of already did that for you on the first one. So see, I've picked exact coordinates. I don't want to pick a coordinate like here. That's not an exact coordinate because I would have to guess, and it would be fractions. So we don't want that. We have to pick exact coordinates. And it can be any 2, as long as they're exact. We want to then create a triangle. Now, not any crazy triangle. I want to draw my triangles along my lines. So I can draw them above it, or I can draw it below it like I'm doing right now. Then we want to write our rise of our triangle over our run of our triangle. So what is the rise? How many are we rising or falling from here to here? Well, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So our rise is 4. Our run, so how many did we run over? 1, 2, 3. Our run is 3. Okay, so the next thing we have to do is we have to decide, is our slope positive or negative? Okay, so let's go back to slope, dude. And let's compare our graph. So we've got a graph that's rising to the right. We're puffing up the hill. So this is a positive slope. So that means that the slope of my line, the steepness of my line, is positive 4/3. And I know you probably don't like that we have it as an improper fraction, but we don't want to change that to a decimal. We want to leave it just like that. Sometimes we could change it to a decimal, but not in this context, maybe only when we're talking with word problems. Okay, let's look at another one. So again, we want to pick 2 exact points. Again, I've helped you out on that. So here's a point, and here's a point. Notice they're exact. The next thing we want to do is draw our triangle. We want to draw it along the lines, no crazy weird triangle. And we want to write our rise over our run. So how much are we rising? Well, we're rising 1, 2. Okay, how many are we running? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so can that be reduced? Can we simplify that fraction? We sure can, to 1/2. And then remember step 4 says we have to decide if this is a positive or a negative slope. So let's look at slope, dude. Whoops, let me do it this way. Which one matches up to slope, dude? Well, notice this time it's falling to the right. So which one's angled that way? This is a negative slope. So our slope is negative 1/2. Okay. Okay, so let's look at the next one. Next one doesn't have any numbers written down. It still has 2 exact points for you. So I want you to see if you can figure out your rise, or draw your triangle, and figure out your rise over your run. And then in the next graph, you're going to have to pick your own 2 points. And so I want you to try to do that on your own. And when you get done, you can check with me. Okay, then the last thing you need to do is we need to know from an equation how to identify a slope. Now that should be easy. We've already talked about slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. Remember, we've already said that the m is the slope. A way to remember it is you need to see what number is married to the x, what is attached to the x. Okay, so look at your first equation. What number is attached to the x? It's right here. The number attached to the x is 4. So the slope is 4. Right here. What number is attached to the x? Right here. So the slope this time is negative 3. Okay. Again, I want you to try these 2 on your own, and then I have a third one. I want to change it so it looks a little bit different and see if I can trick you. See if you can also tell me the slope of all 3 of these, and then we'll check it.